Welcome to Small Business Big Visibility. This is a mini series all about some of the most foundational pieces of business. Now, what it is we're going to be talking about is the words that make up business language. So, there's all kinds of words out there, and I've met a ton of business owners that really don't have good clarity around some of these terms. So, we're going to dive in and go term by term and talk about it and really explore it until we get them firmly embedded in our brain. Now, as a kid, I absolutely hated vocabulary. At first, I thought it was kind of cool, and then I'm like, oh, I hate memorizing. I don't understand why I care about these words. They're not helping me. It's not helping me run any faster or play sports any better. Why should I even care? But I think one of the best examples, and there's several examples out there of the comedy of miscommunication, is Abbott and Costello. Those two, they did that routine that probably everybody's heard, and it's the who's on first. And so they're talking back and forth, and he's asking, okay, I need to know the players out on the field for this baseball team. And he says, okay, who's on first? Yeah, well, that's what I want to know is who's on first. And they go back and forth with who and what and tomorrow and today. And they're just talking, and it's so confusing because they don't understand each other. I think another great example is if you've ever read one of the books for Amelia Bedelia. Amelia Bedelia is constantly getting into trouble, causing chaos, simply because they will say something to her and she doesn't understand what it is that's being communicated. Now, that same sort of thing happens to us, but it isn't always the communication between us, the individual, and someone else. Sometimes it's confusion within our own brain. And that's an important distinction because we may not even realize that we are confusing ourselves. And before you know it, we've got ourselves so twisted up, we don't know which way's up and which way's down. Let's dive into the first word. The first word is a company. What even is a company? Now, there's several different definitions. You can have company come over and visit. You can have company as in a business. So what is it that a company means in the business sense? To me, a company is an organization that provides goods or services in exchange for something of value. Does that fit what you're doing? A company can have one person in it. It can be massive, but it is an entity set up to provide either goods or services to others in exchange for something of value. Now, most of the time, for many of us, that thing of value is going to be cash or money of some kind. Maybe they're paying you in some other way, maybe a debit card, credit card, something. Maybe it's an electronic transfer of funds of some kind. Could be some other currency, but usually they're going to pay some sort of currency to you. You give them a product or a service in exchange for that, and everybody goes on their merry way. That is the foundation of a company. Now, there's something really interesting that I want to unpack with you in regards to a company. In the future, a company may be a standalone entity or a standalone computer program that doesn't even have any humans technically involved in those transactions. And you've probably seen something kind of like that right now, where the computer itself does most of the work. You may have a subscription software, or you may visit a social media platform, and it's the computer and all the software that's providing those services. Now, right now, we have humans that are behind all that, making it all run, but there are these microservices that are being performed. And in the future, we may actually get to the point where the computer is generating the service, validating that it's working, and doing all that itself. As of right now, though, there's usually at least one or more humans involved in setting up, organizing, running that company, and they also are the owner of the company, or you may have multiple people owning the company. So a company can be very small, one person owning it, running it, managing it. It can be very large with tens of thousands of people, or somewhere in between. Within a company, there's certain characteristics and traits that a company has. And that those characteristics and traits, they are going to be different for every single business. You don't really get two businesses that have the exact same characteristics and traits. Now, the characteristics and traits I'm talking about are the brand of the company. Many people will think that if I say the word brand, they immediately think colors, they think logo, maybe they'll think the font that we use. That's all good, and it's a very small part of the brand, but the brand of the company, if we were to take and draw an analogy for what a company's brand is, a company's brand is like a human and their soul and personality. So you have a company on one side, you have a human on the other side. So you just have this empty shell of a human and you have this empty shell of a company. But then you infuse the human with its soul, with its personality, with its character, with its traits, with its quirks, and you get that unique entity of a being. You take a company and you infuse it with all the characteristics of that company. You infuse it with their core values. You infuse it with its communication style. You infuse it with the colors, with the fonts, with the logo. You infuse it with its core differentiators. You infuse it with its purpose. You infuse it with all those pieces that have to be manually identified, and that now the company has a soul to it, it has a personality to it, it has a distinct operating style, it has a distinct communication style. Everything about it is unique. That is what a brand is. It is the soul of a company, it's the personality of a company, it's how they do business, it's how they interact with others. That is the brand. Now, many people don't realize how critical it is to have the company's personality identified. And so as they start the company, they don't think about it. And rightly so. When you first start a company, oftentimes you're just worried about, are we going to be able to make enough money come in and be able to provide the services? Are we going to be able to have extra money at the end of the month? Do I get to pay my bills? Am I falling behind? Those are all the concerns when someone's starting. The personality and soul of the company doesn't even register oftentimes. What's important though is as a company grows and as a company gets bigger, it's more and more important for the various parts of that company to all work in sync. I believe it was Peter Drucker who talked about when you have a single-celled organism, that whole organism exists within one cell, and very little of that organism is dedicated to ensuring the organism keeps functioning. But as it gets bigger and you have multiple cells, you now have specialized systems dedicated to that function of the organism and supporting the organism as a whole. Here's an example. Going back to the human versus a single cell bacteria. The single cell bacteria, very simplistic, has a few functions in it, and most of what it does is interacts with the outside world. A human, we have a specialized system for holding ourselves up. That's the bone structure. For moving, we have the muscle structure, we have ligaments. For communication, we have nerves running all through us. We have all these internal systems that never interact with the outside world. If you get a bone popping out of that's a bad situation. You run to the hospital, get it put back in, make sure it's all clean. And so we have these internal systems that don't interact with the outside world. For us as a human, companies as they get larger have that as well. Now, how terrible is it if you have a company and you hire an employee and you don't explain what your communication style is, your core values are? You don't explain what it is that separates your company from all the others. And the employee is just looking around, making it all up, and totally takes the company and all the interactions people have in a new direction. That's what happens when the brand is not on point. And we're going to have another video that deep dives into that. But I wanted to illustrate it. Making sure that your brand is clearly defined is something that's going to be absolutely critical. In conclusion, we've talked about the importance of making sure that we get these terms baked into our own heads so that we don't have confusion within ourselves. We've talked about the definition of a company, and we've talked about the definition of a brand. We're also going to cover a ton of other terms. We're going to talk about marketing. We're going to talk about advertising. We're going to talk about promotion. We're going to be talking about business development. So stick around, watch the various videos within this mini series so that you have absolute clarity within your own brain on these business terms so that you can communicate with yourself and others more clearly.